All right, guys, welcome back to Real Fans Podcast. We're going to get right into it. We're going to discuss Travis Kelce returning for the 13th season with the Kansas City Chiefs after weighing retirement. So we're just going to share our thoughts, our feelings, kind of reflect on, how he's performed this last year. And Julian, yeah, man, I kind of want to hear what are your thoughts on Kelce kind of weighing that retirement and announcing that he is going to come back. He's going to come back to play for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, it was a talking point coming out of the Super Bowl. Like, is he going to stay? I mean, even at the beginning of this past season, that he's getting older. I believe he's 35 now. What's going to happen on us? But I do want to kind of go into like his performance this year because I will say, from the outside looking in, I'm not a Chiefs fan, so I don't follow like every single play and every single game that they have. But from when the outside looking in, and from what I've heard and just watching the games, it seemed like, okay, yeah, this isn't like the elite Kelsey that we're used to. So I wanted to like see if that actually was true. But I pull up the stats. I tell you what, you might be a little surprised. So he had 97 receptions, so three under 100. He had 823 receiving yards. He had 3 touchdowns, and he had 8.5 yards average per catch. So those are career lows in yards, TDs, and average receptions. Which, if that's his career low, that's kind of a testament to his career as a whole. And 97 receptions, that's still like around the same ballpark of where he's been pretty much every single season. It just seems like they've kind of utilized him more in the short game now. So, what has been your perception of Travis Kelce this season? And now I'm saying those stats because those kind of blew my mind a little bit.
It's crazy to think, right? Because stats play only a part of the story. You could read and look at the stats, and then you can also look at impact on the field, right? So if you are actually watching the games or keeping up, or if you're like, a diehard Chiefs fan, right, you can really reflect more. But I feel like honestly, his down year is probably a great year for other tight ends, which
You
is
would
crazy.
take that.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about when you say that out loud. It's like we're so used to him overperforming year after year, right? Obviously, him and Mahomes, they constantly get compared to Gronk and Tom Brady, right? But I think to really gauge that performance is to see, like, if you actually watch the games and see what his usage was, like how many times he was targeted, right? Did Mahomes actually target him more or less, right? As a tight end, it is your job to block, right? Maybe with the scheming and formatting, that was his duty on the field. Really trying to gauge the other players and utilize them. You know what I mean? In which the Chiefs over the last few years, man, they didn't really have any big name receivers or reliable receivers. So maybe trying to
Nobody.
keep all rolling with that. Yeah, exactly. And they still ended up making it to the Super Bowl. But not to, take the conversation away from him and his performance. I mean, obviously it was a bad year. I mean, you couldn't place a bet on this guy to go over 50 yards. You honestly didn't know. In the last few years, you could guarantee he's getting 50 yards, 5 catches. If you bet
Yeah.
this year, I put a bet. This is personal. I put a bet for 25 yards one game. This man didn't even get 25 yards. And
Yeah, it's like a streaky thing almost. So like he would have games where it would kind of rack up a little bit, and then somewhere it was just like non-existent.
yeah,
It
honestly.
was weird.
So like his usage, was weird this year. He did have some opportunities where some drop passes now and then, but then again, like who doesn't have that? But when you hear Kelsey Mahomes and that duo, it is kind of like unheard of, right? You always think perfection amongst the two. Uh, So honestly, I'm not surprised though, that he is coming back. I'm not surprised at all. You can't go out like that. The way we all
Y-
saw the game, we all know what happened at Super Bowl, and there's no way you have the career you had and just to hang it up after that performance from the team, not
Yeah,
even
and it,
the individual, like from the team.
yeah, it's one thing if you lost, but then it's like, I mean, they got destroyed. I mean, it was pretty bad. And I agree with you too. It's like he's not at the level we're necessarily used from him. So like if he doesn't perform to that level, we're like, okay, he's washed, or he's like he needs to go. He's not the same. But like you said, it's like, I mean, 800 receiving yards, 97 receptions. Granted, the TD score is pretty low. That's for a tight end, and then obviously his average is 8.5. So That's also kind of low. But like you said, any you would take that from any tenant. And considering that's a position where it's very hard to like find quality guys who can receive and block. So yeah, I think a large majority of teams will take that. But now that he's committed to going to next year, tell me what you think from him next year, and then I'll give you what I think because I think it'd go either way. But what do you expect from him?
Listen, man, if I'm the Chiefs, bro, I'm saving him for the playoffs.
Just shut it down.
Nah, not complete shutdown, but I
Just shut
would
it down.
I would say, man, whoever your second string, third string, right? Start thinking about the future, right? Get him, get him some playing time, get him some burn on the field, learn the system with Mahomes, and maybe reduce some time, some playing time on the field, and save one of your best experienced players for the playoffs, so you don't have a performance that you just had in the Super Bowl. Obviously, there's many factors that go into it. We saw the Philly defense, yada yada. We know that. We know that. But granted, the mileage on this guy, right? Forget regular season games. Over the last 5 years, how many extra games did he have to play between in the playoffs and then make it into the
Yeah,
Super
that's
Bowl?
true.
You add that mileage, so that's a lot. It's a lot of it's almost an extra season that he's played than majority of people in his position.
Yeah, I mean, I think he will be effective. I think he's one of those players where he's not just going to be a dud and you know what, all right, man, you should have hung it up like last year. I think he'll be pretty decent. I think people just have to set the expectations from him. I don't think he's going to be an all pro tight end. I'm not even entirely sure he might be a pro bowler, but whether or not he deserves it is another thing. I think he's just going to be a solid piece that you kind of have, but you can't expect him to be the main focal point anymore, like you did in years past. So that requires Kansas City to really beef up everywhere else because he
Facts.
wasn't just your tight end; he was your receiver. He was also making up for like the lack of run game that they've had. So you need to have maybe he's a tight end too, or maybe you do like two tight end sets. Like, but I don't know if he can necessarily be an island anymore. So yeah, I think they definitely need to add receivers and bring in another. I know they had this Gray guy, but he was pretty inconsistent at times, and you didn't really see a lot. Um, Maybe he makes an improvement from the next year up, or they bring somebody else in. But yeah, I mean, now the question is, will next year be his last year?
Oof, that's tough. So, I mean, first off, what's his contract even looking like? Let's start there.
I believe it's so. Let me see. Travis Kelce contract.
Because sometimes money talks. You might want to hang it up, but let's see what's left on that.
Let me see. Spot track. He. This is his last year.
Oh, there you go. I mean, so I do think, I mean, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. They can make another run for the Super Bowl. This was their worst team that made a run to the Super Bowl. So if they do
This
make
was probably the worst team ever to make a
yeah,
run to a Super Bowl.
and they lost 2 games. Granted, yes, the Broncos beat them in the last one. They threw that game cool, right? Third stringers in. They lost 1 game all season, and we're claiming this was their worst team, which is insane. You lost 1 game all year.
I mean,
So
that's
if they
what
do
happens when you sell your soul to like the football devil. Like, I mean, that's just kind of what happens.
wow, it's ridiculous to think about how good they've been over the years. So imagine if they actually get a true wide receiver one, or another great running back, and they
The O
make another
line.
run. Honestly, I think next year could 90% be his last year. Just a
That's a
lot
good
it's a lot
percentage.
it's a lot of wear it's like, what more do you prove, you know what I mean? Like, we know Mahomes is young, he has some time under him, you know what I mean? Like, but for someone in his position, if he's not comfortable playing at a high level, and he's gonna worry about the wear and tear, and he wants to go out on his own terms, I'd say give it a go 1 more year.
I'm with you. I didn't even think about you saying it in like a percentage, but yeah, I think there's a 90% chance he's done. I mean, you have to consider that this is a very physical position he plays where you're
Exactly.
kind of asked to be have play two roles as kind
Yeah.
of the extension of the offensive line, but also like be a threat in the interior of the passing game. So I don't know. I mean, I think even from a Kansas City Chiefs perspective, is like, is he worth paying whatever he's going to ask for into free agency at 37 years old or 36 year
Like,
olds, 36
get a
years old,
good
however
chip.
it be.
This is what I've done. This is what I brought to the table. Just
Yeah.
that story is never gonna end with superstars who already go past their prime, right? And of course, owners, they're majority of them not gonna want to pay super high max contract for an
Yeah.
aging star.
And I think these stats are probably going to shrink a little bit more. Like I said, I could see him maybe getting 600 receiving yards because I'm sure they're going to start finding ways to kind of divert the attention away from him. And I mean, hopefully, I mean, you thought they were going to do that for the last 2 years since Hill left, but that didn't really happen. So, and I think another thing that plays a part into it too is like this is a guy who's clearly set up for life after football. I mean, with his personality, his own podcast that he has, I'm sure he's going to get asked to be on TV and the countless commercials he's already on. Like,
Listen, the Kelsey
and he's
brothers
probably going to make,
they're gonna be the Manning brothers post retirement
yeah,
for sure.
they
They're
might be
gonna get
bigger
the
because I think they bring more personality than the Manning brothers. Personally, that's just my opinion. But I mean, that's just me. But I mean, when you have like it's kind of like the whole like fighting thing. It's hard to get up to fight when you're sleeping in silk sheets. You know, it's
yeah,
do you really want to go into another year at 37 years old? And who knows where the Chiefs are by the end of next year? I'm predicting that they're going to be a playoff team, but I don't see them being a contender. Then again, I thought that this past year.
a lot of
Uh,
us.
but I do think the Chiefs are going to regress a little bit unless they really make some changes in the free agency and draft, which we'll talk about at a later time. So I don't know. I think that's going to play a big part of it because if you end the 2025 season and it's not looking like the Chiefs are moving in the right direction, and then you got all these other outside sources like talking to you, like, hey, come join Fox. Hey, CBS,
Yep, literally throw money
uh,
at you.
fucking Campbell Soup. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know. Something like that. But yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it with the Travis Kelce thing. If you guys made it to the end of the video, we greatly appreciate it. Please leave a like and subscribe for more content like this. And yeah, if you're listening on audio, please leave a rating. We greatly appreciate it. And we'll catch you in the next video. Peace out, everybody.